When dreams return home. It was a quiet Saturday morning in Umuaga when the villagers gathered around a brand new building with white walls and a red roof. Children clung to their mothers, elders leaned on walking sticks, and everyone whispered the same name, Amaka. A black SUV pulled up. From it stepped out a woman in a white coat, holding a medical bag. She was no longer the barefoot girl of yesterday. She was now Dr. Amaka, the pride of Umuaga. Her eyes still held that same softness, her smile still gentle. She walked through the crowd, greeting people by name, Mama Ngozi, Uncle Ejike, little Kamsi who once had fever. Then she stood under the same mango tree where she had once studied and dreamed. In her speech, Amaka said, "This is not my story alone. It belongs to every child who walks barefoot with a head full of dreams. I was helped. Now, it's my turn to help others." The crowd clapped, some wiped their tears. Miss Okoro stood proudly in the front row, now retired, watching her former student light the path for others. As the clinic doors opened, the first patient, a shy little girl with dusty feet, was handed a pair of clean slippers by Amaka herself. She knelt, tied the straps, and smiled. "Now you can walk into your future, too," she whispered. And just like that, the barefoot queen passed the crown. The girl with painted toes. 10 years after the Barefoot Hope Center opened, a little girl named Zara stood outside its gate. She was only 7, full of questions and too curious for her own good. Her father had passed during the floods, and her mother worked in the village's palm oil mill. Life was tough, just like it had been for Amaka. But Zara was different too. She wore one pink sandal and one blue slipper. Not because she liked colors, but because that's all they had. She came to the clinic not for medicine, but because she'd heard stories of the woman who once walked barefoot and became a doctor. Every evening, she'd sit on the bench outside the clinic, hoping to catch a glimpse of Amaka. Her dream, to be a writer. But she didn't even own a pencil. One day, Amaka noticed her. "Why do you come here every day, little one?" she asked. Zara replied, "Because if I stay close to dreams, maybe they'll catch me." Amaka smiled, her heart warming. From that day forward, she took Zara under her wing. Gave her books, notebooks, and, yes, a full set of matching shoes. But more than that, she gave her time. She listened to Zara's stories, corrected her grammar, encouraged her imagination. Years later, Zara would publish a book called The Girl with Painted Toes, dedicated to the woman who taught me to walk in dreams. When the pen became her voice, Zara sat by the lantern light, her fingers covered in ink, scribbling fast in her old, donated notebook. The roof leaked when it rained, and the walls of her house were cracked. But her stories, they were solid, alive, full of color. She wrote about talking birds, proud queens, and warrior girls with mismatched slippers, just like her. Words became her world, her escape from hunger, noise, and grief. Amaka, now older and semi-retired, read every story Zara wrote. "You don't just write," she said one evening, sipping tea, "you speak for those who don't know how." But then tragedy struck. Zara's mother fell gravely ill. The mill laid her off. The money stopped. School became optional. Hunger grew louder than dreams. Zara almost gave up. She packed her books in a sack and decided to leave writing behind. But before she could throw them away, she saw something. A little girl, barefoot, hungry, sat on the same clinic bench she once did. The child was crying. Zara approached, handed her a sweet biscuit from her pocket and said, "If you stay close to dreams, maybe they'll catch you." Those were Amaka's words. Now they were hers. She walked back home, unpacked her stories, and started writing again, this time, with a purpose. The story that saved a village. At 17, Zara wrote a short story called, The Mango Tree Does Not Forget. It was based on her life, Amaka's clinic, and the power of village dreams. She submitted it secretly to a national writing contest. Then forgot about it. Months later, a black car rolled into Umuaga. Again, a man stepped out, wearing a suit, holding a trophy and an envelope. "Is Zara here?" he asked. The story had won. First prize. National level. The reward. A publishing contract and a full scholarship. The village gathered again, just like the day Amaka opened the clinic. But this time, it was Zara who stood under the mango tree. She said, "Some stories are born from suffering. But if you keep writing, one day they'll bring healing, to you and to others." She built a small library beside the clinic, filled with books in local dialects. Children came barefoot, hungry, curious, just like she once did. And she welcomed each one with a story. The sign at the library gate read, "Where the barefoot come to fly." From Umuaga to the world. Zara stepped off the plane in London, her breath caught in her throat. Bright lights, cold air, so many unfamiliar faces. But her heart carried Umuaga, every dusty path, every mango tree, every story whispered in the wind. She was in the city to receive the Global Youth Storyteller Award, the first African girl under 20 to ever win it. Her book, The Mango Tree Does Not Forget, had been translated into 12 languages. Children in Brazil, India, and Canada were reading about the barefoot girls of Umuaga, and asking for more. On stage, dressed in a simple Ankara dress, Zara looked out at the crowd of cameras, authors, and world leaders. She began, "I didn't grow up with a bookshelf. I grew up with silence, hunger, and a dream I dared not say aloud. But stories saved me. A woman once gave me shoes. A village gave me memories. Now, I give the world their voices." The crowd stood and clapped. Some cried. But Zara's journey didn't end there. She returned to Nigeria and started the Ink from Earth Foundation, a movement to discover storytellers in poor villages across Africa. Not just writers, but orators, poets, griots, drummers, and dancers. She believed stories didn't need paper. They needed heart. And one day, many years later, when Dr. Amaka passed away peacefully in her sleep, Zara returned to Umuaga again. She buried her under the mango tree, with a small, quiet ceremony. Beside the grave, she placed an open book. The seed beneath. The story. Her name was Nia, Zara's daughter. Quiet, observant, full of questions and secrets. Unlike her mother, Nia wasn't a writer. She didn't like pens. She loved cameras. She'd roam around Umuaga with an old video recorder, filming everyday life, children climbing trees, aunties pounding yam, grandfathers telling riddles. One day, she found a torn, dusty diary in her mother's library. Inside was Amaka's handwriting, fading but full of power. Notes from her early clinic days, scribbled dreams of a hospital, and a line that read, "If only someone could capture what we feel when we lose and still hope." Nia sat quietly, reading those words again and again. And then she knew. She wouldn't write stories, she would show them. The girl who filmed silence. At just 16, Nia created a short documentary called Footprints in Dust. It featured her village, its joys, its struggles, and the stories hidden in its silences. It was raw, honest, unfiltered. She interviewed barefoot children under the mango tree, filmed old women singing lullabies, and followed her mother during library sessions with local girls. When the video went online, it exploded across Africa. Media houses called. Film schools offered scholarships. People across continents saw a side of African life never captured before. Not poverty, not pity, but poetry in daily survival. Zara watched silently as her daughter stood on global stages, just like she once did. And one day, when Nia received the Young Visionary Filmmaker Award in Accra, she ended her speech with these words. "My grandmother gave shoes. My mother gave stories. I give eyes to the world, so they can see we were never voiceless. Just unseen. The legacy lived on, through pen, lens, and love."